The rain came down harder than anyone expected that morning. It wasn't just a drizzle. It was the kind of rain that soaked through your shoes, clung to your clothes, and made the whole world feel heavier than usual. People rushed past each other with their heads down, trying to get to work, to school, to anywhere but outside. And on a quiet street corner, standing alone under a broken bus stop shelter, was a man who looked like he had already given up on the day, maybe even on life. Before we begin, take a second to support the channel. If this story touches your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support helps spread more stories like this, stories that remind us what it means to be human. Ethan Parker had always believed in doing the right thing. He was the kind of guy who held doors open for strangers, who smiled at cashiers, who tipped a little extra even when money was tight. But life hadn't been kind to Ethan lately. At 35, he had just lost his job at a small construction company that went bankrupt overnight. His savings were almost gone, and the rent was overdue. That rainy morning, Ethan stood at the bus stop, clutching an old backpack that carried everything he needed for a job interview across town. It was his last chance, his only shot at getting back on his feet. But the bus was late. Of course it was. Ethan checked his phone. The screen flickered. It was almost out of battery. He sighed and looked up at the gray sky, wondering if anything would go right that day. That's when he noticed the man. Sitting on the edge of the bench, soaked from head to toe, was an older man with tired eyes and trembling hands. His clothes were worn out, and his shoes had holes in them. He looked cold. Not just from the rain, but from something deeper. Ethan hesitated. He didn't have much. In fact, he barely had enough for himself. But something about the man made it impossible to just stand there and pretend not to notice. Ethan reached into his backpack and pulled out the only dry thing he had, a spare hoodie. "Hey," he said gently, stepping closer. "You look like you could use this." The man looked up, surprised. For a moment, he didn't say anything. Then he slowly took the hoodie. "Thank you," he whispered. I didn't think anyone would stop." Ethan shrugged, offering a small smile. "Yeah, well, today seems like a good day to prove that wrong." They sat in silence for a few minutes, listening to the rain hit the pavement. Then the man spoke again. "My name's Walter." "Ethan," he replied. Walter nodded, pulling the hoodie tighter around himself. "You heading somewhere important?" Ethan let out a quiet laugh. "Yeah. Job interview. If the bus ever shows up." Walter studied him for a moment. "You look like someone who doesn't give up easily." Ethan looked down at his worn-out shoes. "I try not to." Just then, the bus finally appeared in the distance. Ethan stood up quickly. "That's mine." Walter reached out and lightly touched his arm. "Wait." Ethan turned. Walter fumbled in his pocket and pulled out something small, a folded piece of paper. "I know it's not much," Walter said. "But take this. And don't lose hope, okay?" Ethan hesitated, confused, but took the paper anyway. Thanks." He stepped onto the bus just as the doors closed. The ride across town was long, and Ethan couldn't stop thinking about Walter. Who was he? Why did he give him that piece of paper? Curious, Ethan unfolded it. Inside was an address. No explanation. Just an address. Ethan frowned. It didn't make sense. He almost crumpled it up and threw it away, but something stopped him. Instead, he slipped it into his pocket. The bus finally reached downtown, and Ethan rushed to the office building where his interview was scheduled. He was late, but not too late. He walked in, slightly soaked, slightly nervous, and completely unsure of what would happen next. The receptionist greeted him with a polite smile. "You must be Ethan Parker. They're expecting you." Ethan blinked. "They are?" "Yes." "Right this way." He followed her down a hallway into a large office. And then, he froze. Sitting behind the desk was Walter. But he didn't look the same. He was clean, well-dressed, confident. The tired man from the bus stop was gone. Ethan's jaw dropped. What is this? Walter stood up, smiling warmly. I was wondering how long it would take you to figure it out. Ethan shook his head, trying to process what he was seeing. You're the owner of this company, Walter finished. Yes. Ethan felt like the ground shifted beneath him. I don't understand, he said. This morning you were testing something, Walter said gently. Ethan frowned. Testing what? Walter walked around the desk and stood in front of him. Kindness. He paused, letting the words settle. I built this company from nothing, Walter continued. Over the years, I've hired hundreds of people. Some had perfect resumes. Some said all the right things. But too many of them lacked something important. Heart. Ethan stayed silent. So, every now and then, Walter said, I step outside of this office. I dress like someone the world ignores. And I watch. Ethan's mind raced back to the bus stop. I've seen people walk past me like I don't exist, Walter said quietly. I've seen them look away, pretend not to notice. But today, you didn't. Ethan swallowed hard. I just gave you a hoodie. Walter smiled. No. You gave me respect. You gave me dignity. And you did it when you had every reason not to. The room felt still. Tell me something, Ethan, Walter said. Why did you help me? Ethan thought for a moment. Because I know what it feels like to need help, he said finally. And I guess I just hoped someone would do the same for me. Walter nodded slowly. That's exactly the kind of person I want on my team. Ethan's eyes widened. You mean? You got the job, Walter said. For a moment, Ethan couldn't speak. Then he laughed, a real, genuine laugh that he hadn't felt in weeks. Are you serious? Walter extended his hand. Very serious. Ethan shook it, still in disbelief. Thank you, he said. Walter smiled. No, Ethan. Thank you for reminding me that kindness still exists. Weeks turned into months, and Ethan's life began to change. He worked hard. He showed up early. He treated everyone, from coworkers to janitors, with the same kindness he showed Walter that rainy morning. And people noticed. Not just his work, but his attitude. One day, a new employee asked him, How did you get this job? Ethan smiled. Honestly, he said, it started with a simple act of kindness. The employee looked confused. That's it. Ethan nodded. That's it. The truth is, we never really know what someone else is going through. The person standing next to you in line, the one sitting alone on a bench, the stranger you pass on the street, they all have stories you can't see. And sometimes, the smallest act, a smile, a kind word, a helping hand, can change everything. For them. And for you. So the next time you're faced with a choice, walk away or show kindness, remember Ethan. Remember Walter. And remember that even on the darkest, rainiest days, a little kindness can light the way. Because in the end, kindness isn't just something we give. It's something that comes back to us, when we least expect it, and when we need it the most.